Shalom, welcome back to the Midrash Rabbah Parasha series. In this week, after Parashat Pinchas in the Diaspora cycle, we arrive at the double portion of Matot and Masei. This is the closing movement of the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. It finishes with speech, war, money, memory, boundaries, refuge, inheritance, and journey. A spiritual life is not only what happens when we feel inspired. A spiritual life is how we speak, how we handle conflict, how we handle wealth, how we remember the road behind us, and how we create safe places for damaged human beings to return to life. According to Midrash Rabbah, this portion begins with one of the most serious powers a person has, the power of the mouth. The Torah says that if a person makes a vow to Hashem, he must not profane his word. He must do according to what comes out of his mouth. In simple language, the Torah is saying, your word is not just sound. Your word creates a spiritual reality. And the Midrash makes this even stronger. It connects vows and oaths to the verse in Jeremiah. If you swear by the life of Hashem, it must be in truth, in justice, and in righteousness. So the Midrash says, do not think it is automatically permitted to use the name of heaven, even for something true. A person must have fear of God, truth, justice, and righteousness before he speaks that way. Sometimes people use holy words too quickly. They say, God told me. They say, I promise. They say, I swear. They say, I am certain. But the Midrash teaches that holy speech needs holy character behind it. If the inside of the person is not aligned, the mouth becomes dangerous. This is why the portion speaks first to the heads of the tribes. Leadership begins with speech. Before a leader organizes people, before a leader makes decisions, before a leader gives instruction, he must guard his mouth. Because when a leader speaks carelessly, many people can be damaged by one sentence. But this is not only for leaders outside us. Each of us has a little kingdom inside. Our thoughts, our body, our habits, our emotions, our money, our relationships. And the mouth is one of the rulers of that kingdom. If the mouth is chaotic, the inner kingdom becomes chaotic. If the mouth is disciplined, the inner kingdom becomes calmer. So, Matot begins with a very practical holiness. Do not say what you do not mean. Do not promise what you will not carry. Do not put Hashem's name on your own ego. Let your words become clean. Let your yes become a real yes. Let your no become a real no. Let silence become part of your service. Then the portion moves into the war against Midian. On the surface, it is a difficult passage, but the Midrash focuses on the spiritual loyalty of Moshe. Hashem tells Moshe to take vengeance against Midian, and after that, he will be gathered to his people. In other words, this mission is tied to the end of Moshe's life. The Midrash says something amazing. If Moshe wanted to live longer, he could have delayed the mission. He could have said, maybe later, let the next generation deal with it. But Moshe does not delay. He immediately tells the people to prepare. He does not choose extra time for himself at the cost of Israel's healing. That is real leadership. Moshe knows that his own death is connected to the completion of this task, but he still moves forward. He is not serving his own survival. He is serving the will of Hashem and the protection of the people. And this is where the Midrash gives us another subtle teaching. Hashem says, take vengeance for the children of Israel. But Moshe says, take vengeance for Hashem. Why? Because Moshe understands that Midian did not attack Israel only politically. They attacked the covenant, the holiness, the Torah, and the relationship between Israel and Hashem. When holiness is attacked, it is not only a human insult, it is a desecration of something divine. But even in judgment, Moshe does not lose gratitude. The Midrash asks, if Hashem told Moshe to take vengeance, why did Moshe send others? One answer is that Moshe grew in Midian. He had received shelter there earlier in his life. So the Midrash brings the proverb, do not throw a stone into a well from which you drank. Think about that. Midian has become an enemy in this story. Yet, Moshe still remembers the good he once received. That does not mean he ignores evil. It means judgment does not erase gratitude. A holy person can oppose what is wrong without becoming spiritually ugly inside. Sometimes, when people are hurt, they rewrite the whole past. They say there was never any good. Everything was fake. But Moshe teaches a higher path. Even when correction is necessary, do not destroy your memory of the good. Do not become a person who drinks from a well and later throws stones into it. The Midrash also says Pinchas is sent because the one who began the mitzvah should complete it. Pinchas had stopped the plague in the previous portion. Now, he continues the work against the same spiritual root. This teaches that some assignments are not finished in one dramatic moment. Sometimes the first act stops the bleeding, but the deeper repair still has to be completed. Then the Midrash brings Bilam back into the story. Bilam is killed with Midian. The Midrash asks, what was he doing there? And it answers that he came to collect his payment for the 24,000 who died because of the counsel he gave. That is chilling. Bilam's spirituality became business. He wanted reward for destruction. This is one of the great warnings of Midrash Rabbah. A person can have gifts and still be corrupt. A person can know spiritual language and still be greedy. A person can have access to spiritual power and still use it to feed ego, money, and control. Bilam is the image of polluted spiritual talent. He can speak elevated words, but his heart wants payment. He can see visions, but he cannot purify his desire. And the Midrash applies the verse, the one who digs a pit falls into it. The trap he helped create comes back on him. It is a law of spiritual life. When a person uses truth for manipulation, the manipulation eventually traps the person. When someone uses blessing for ego, the ego eventually devours the blessing. When a person sells holy insight for corruption, the holiness departs and only the corruption remains. After the war, the Midrash notices something beautiful. The soldiers bring the spoils to Moshe and Eleazar. They do not just grab for themselves. The Midrash says, this shows their praise. They did not take from the loot without permission. This is a small detail, but spiritually it is huge. After conflict, after victory, after pressure, the test becomes, can you still be clean with money? Can you still be accountable? Can you still bring things into the light? The Midrash is teaching that holiness is not only in prayer. Holiness is also in what you do when resources are available and nobody is forcing your hand. Then we come to the tribes of Reuben and Gad. They have much livestock and they want to settle on the east side of the Jordan. The Midrash uses this moment to speak about wealth. It says there are three great gifts in the world: wisdom, might, and wealth. If they come from heaven and through Torah, they are true gifts. But if they are seized only by human ego, they do not last. This is a very balanced teaching. The Midrash is not saying wealth is evil. It is saying wealth must be in its proper place. Wealth can serve holiness, family, community, and Torah. But when wealth becomes the center, it begins to bend the soul. Reuben and Gad reveal the problem through the order of their words. They say they will build sheepfolds for their flocks and cities for their children. Moshe corrects them. First, build cities for your children, and then folds for your flocks. In other words, do not put possessions before life. Do not put business before family. Do not put assets before souls. This matters in everyday spiritual life. A person can become so busy protecting the means of life that he forgets life itself. He can protect the flock and neglect the children. He can grow the account and weaken the home. He can say, I am doing this for the future, while the present becomes spiritually empty. The Midrash says, the wise heart is to the right, and the foolish heart is to the left. Moshe represents the wise heart because he puts first things first. Reuben and Gad in that moment represent the confused heart because they put secondary things first. So the question becomes, what is first in my life? Not what do I say is first, but what does my schedule show? What does my spending show? What does my emotional energy show? What receives my best strength? That is where the truth is. Then Masei begins. These are the journeys of the children of Israel. The Torah lists station after station, place after place. It can feel like a travel record, but Midrash Rabbah says, Hashem told Moshe to write these journeys so Israel would know the miracles Hashem performed for them. The Midrash says that in the wilderness there were serpents, fiery serpents, scorpions, enemies, danger, and fear. Yet Hashem did not let those things destroy Israel. So the list of journeys is not boring geography. It is a map of hidden protection. This is powerful for our own lives. Sometimes you look back and only remember the difficulty. But the Midrash says, look again. The fact that you pass through certain places and survive is itself testimony. You may remember the fear, but heaven remembers the protection. You may remember the desert, but Hashem remembers every place where He carried you. Then the Midrash gives the parable of a king whose son was sick. The king took his son on a journey to heal him. Later, on the way back, the father points to each place. Here we slept. Here we were cold. Here your head hurt. So Hashem tells Moshe to recount the places where Israel angered him. At first, that sounds harsh. Why remember the places of failure? But in the parable, the father is not humiliating the son. He is showing the son the whole healing journey. Here you were weak. Here you struggled. Here you were difficult. And still we kept going. That is how the Midrash transforms memory. Memory is not meant to trap you in shame. Memory is meant to show you how mercy walked with you even when you were not at your best. Then the Midrash adds another beautiful teaching. Why did these places merit to be written in the Torah? Because they received Israel. Even the desert places are rewarded for hosting the people of Hashem. If a wilderness receives Israel and is remembered, then how much more a person who receives Torah, wisdom, and holy people into his home and heart. So every station matters. Every place that helps a soul continue has value. Every person who gives shelter to holiness becomes part of the journey. Finally, the portion speaks about the cities of refuge. These cities were for the person who killed unintentionally, the person whose life is now broken by tragedy, fear, and consequence. And the Midrash says, good and upright is Hashem. Therefore, He instructs sinners on the way. That line is so tender. Hashem does not only instruct the perfect, He instructs sinners on the way. He makes roads for broken people. The Midrash even says they place signs pointing to the cities of refuge, so the fleeing person would not get lost. That is the compassion of Torah. Justice matters, but the road must be clear. Accountability matters, but the person must still be able to find refuge. The Torah does not say you made a terrible mistake, so wander forever. It says there is a place to go, and the way must be marked. And that is the closing message of Bamidbar Rabbah on this portion. Guard your mouth. Do not sell holiness like Bilam. Do not put wealth before souls like Reuben and Gad almost did. Remember every journey as a hidden miracle. And when someone is broken, make the road to refuge clear. Matot-Masei is the end of numbers, but it feels like a preparation for life. Because after the wilderness, the real question is, what kind of person enters the land? A person of clean speech, ordered priorities, honest memory, and merciful justice. May Hashem help us speak with truth, justice, and righteousness. May He help us put first things first. May He help us see the miracles hidden inside our journeys. And may He make us people who do not block the road to refuge, but mark the way with mercy. Shalom.